So over the past week, we were treated to one of the best matchups in the NBA in the Brooklyn Nets versus the Milwaukee Bucks. And although the Nets were without James Harden, the Bucks still ended up winning both of those games. And personally, if the Bucks hadn't won both of those games, I wouldn't have made this video. But since they did, I'm not gonna lie, I saw a lot of signs and things that lead me to believe that the Milwaukee Bucks can beat the Brooklyn Nets. So in today's video, I'll be naming some reasons to why I believe the Brooklyn Nets can lose to the Milwaukee Bucks. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content and help reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. And comment on this video to start a conversation with me as I do respond to all comments. And play that intro. The first reason I believe the Milwaukee Bucks can truly defeat the Brooklyn Nets in a playoff series is the fact that, as we all know, the Nets are one of the best offensive teams in NBA history. We all know that, as they do have a big three of Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. And this is a team that is going to score 120 points or more right on your head. So if you want even a chance to defeat them, you have to be very good on offense, because otherwise you won't be able to keep up and have a close game with them. But luckily for the Bucks, they're one of the best offensive teams in the league, as the Bucks rank first in points scored per game and 6th in offensive rating. But the Bucks being solid on offense isn't what makes me believe they can beat the Nets. It's the fact that the Bucks have their own big three to counteract with the Nets' big three, as they have Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton, and Jrue Holiday. That big three is not as good as the Nets, obviously, but it is a solid one, and those guys are all very good offensive players. Because we know Giannis Antetokounmpo is a top 5 player in the league, and he's just a player who wreaks havoc for defenses, because he can score 30 points and grab 15 rebounds in his sleep, and he just draws a lot of attention from the defense. Also, this is a team that literally has no one who can guard Giannis, because as we saw in the 2 games this past week, DeAndre Jordan was absolutely no match for him, Blake Griffin was no match for him, and Jeff Green was not a match for him. And in prior seasons, the only reason Giannis wasn't as good in the postseason was because he ran into the 2 teams that could perfectly construct the defense to slow him down, in the Toronto Raptors and Miami Heat. But the Nets are one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA, so they simply will not be able to put a wall against Giannis, which means he's going to absolutely feast on them in the postseason. The other part of the Bucks' big three is Chris Middleton, who is one of the more efficient 20 points per game scorers in the league. He's a great 3-point shooter who can create his own shot at a good level. And in the postseason, he's not the most reliable player, but he's not an absolute choker or anything like that. He's just a bit inconsistent. And Jrue Holiday is a guy who, when asked to, can score over 25 points efficiently. And he's notorious for stepping up in the postseason when it matters most. So I think there's a good chance that he can be even better than he has been in the regular season. If all the Bucks had was a solid big three, I wouldn't think they could beat the Nets. But the fact that Milwaukee has incredible floor spacing makes me think they definitely have a chance. So if they get hot from the 3-point line, they can even outscore or at least compete with Brooklyn. The Bucks have an assortment of 3-point shooters, as we know. They have Chris Middleton, who's an elite shooter who shoots 42% from 3. They have Jrue Holiday, who is shooting nearly 40% from 3 this season. They have Dante DiVincenzo, who's shooting 36% from 3 this year. Brook Lopez is a center who can space out the floor as he shoots 34% from 3. Pat Connaughton shoots 38% from 3. Bobby Portis shoots 47% from 3. And PJ Tucker, since arriving to Milwaukee, has been shooting 47% from 3, and Brandon Forbes, who is an underrated shooter in the league, is shooting 44% from 3. So Milwaukee can get just as hot as Brooklyn at the 3-point line. If their shooters and role players step up and their big three can play at a high level, I honestly think they could defeat the Nets. The second reason I believe the Milwaukee Bucks can defeat the Brooklyn Nets is the fact that, as I said, the Nets are a great offensive team, and if you're a bad defensive team, they will absolutely light you up. They'll go from just a great offense to putting up historic numbers against you. And I'm not saying if you're a good defensive team, team you'll be able to lock them down or anything close to that, but at least you'll be able to somewhat contain them from scoring 140 points, because this Nets team can truly do that. And luckily for the Bucks, they are a great defensive team as well, as they have the 6th best ranked defense in the league. And although their defense does have some flaws in it, with them allowing a lot of wide open 3-pointers, as well as their coach Mike Budenholzer being terrible at making adjustments, they still are a team that is filled with a plethora of good defenders, as they have the defensive player of the year last season in Giannis Antetokounmpo, who provides a good paint presence. He's also a guy who can step out on the perimeter and guard a lot of elite perimeter players, guys like Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. He might honestly be the best one-on-one defender to put on Kevin Durant simply because of his length, and I say maybe because there is a guy named Ben Simmons in the league. But nonetheless, Giannis is a really good defender, and he will be a deterrence for the Nets on offense. The Bucks' second best defender is Jrue Holiday, who in my opinion is the best defender in the league at the point guard position, not including Ben Simmons, because he's really strong and he's just a smart defender who can stay in front of guys. As we saw in the 2 games in this past week, whenever Kevin Durant tried to post up on Jrue Holiday, he could not be moved. Kevin would literally not be able to move him, and when Kyrie was being defended by Jrue, he had a bit of problems, and if you can give Kyrie problems, you know you're good. Remember, against a team like the Nets, with players like that and at that level, you won't be able to absolutely lock them down. You just have to try and at least contain them or slow them down. And the Bucks are a team that have players who can do just that, as they have PJ Tucker, who we all know is a pretty good defender, Dante DiVincenzo is a pretty good defender, and Chris Middleton is a pretty solid one as well. They also have Brook Lopez patrolling the paint. He is a pretty intimidating force at the basket. I'm not going to sit here and act like he can slow the Brooklyn Nets down, but you can contain them. But Milwaukee is a team that is really perfectly constructed to defend the Nets. They have a bunch of guys who are really good on defense, and they don't have much liabilities on the defensive side of the floor. So when your defense is as good as the Bucks, you definitely have a chance to beat the third reason I believe the Milwaukee Bucks can beat the Brooklyn Nets is the fact that if you want to beat the Nets, which is a very star-studded team, you have to have a star of your own that is capable of outplaying the Nets star. And luckily for the Bucks, they have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is top 5 or at worst the top 7 player in the league. When you realize that Brooklyn has no one who can stop him or even contain him, it makes you realize that if they face him in the series, Giannis will completely dominate them and possibly take over the series. And although he hasn't shown it yet, I think Giannis is capable of outplaying Kevin Durant and James Harden, because there's an argument that Harden isn't the best playoff performer in the league. I could legitimately see Giannis averaging close to 40 points in that series, and that honestly might just be enough to beat the Nets. To conclude the video, I just wanted to talk about this matchup, since we did see 2 very close and entertaining games between the 2 in the past week. And I feel like if a series were to go down between the 2, the Bucks would be the underdog in the series, but I do actually think that they could beat the Nets. If a series were to go down between the 2, I honestly think Brooklyn would win, but I wouldn't want to see that. Anyways guys, that's it for the video. Let me know who you think's better, the Bucks or the Nets. Drop a like on this video, as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content, and help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. And comment on this video to start a conversation, as I do respond to all of my comments. And play that intro.